Hey guys, Big Jonas here. It's been a long time, so let's get into it. Talking about Bitcoin here. I'm on the 3 day chart, and I like to use the 3 day chart because we get kind of away from the daily chop and we get away from the weekly, um, examples of consolidation, distribution, potentially reaccumulation. And we get a sense of basically in the structure of the recent candles, what are we actually looking at here? Now, yesterday we had a little bit of a dip, just a couple grand, but it wasn't a huge dip. And the structure is really just continuing in equilibrium, and the absorption, the digestion, if you will, from our run from the beginning of this year in January all the way to March, where we ripped, from the low 40s to the mid 70s on an 83% move in such a very short amount of time. We're talking a month and a half. This is a huge move in such a short amount of time. Now, when that does happen, from a healthy chart and from a healthy market standpoint, we like to see consolidation and we like to see digestion of that. That's exactly what we still have here. We have our high, we have our low, we have our lower high, and currently we have our higher low, and we are still, tightening in this pattern here. Now, what's interesting is when we think about when we were able to break above, let's say, the mid 50s and the huge volume candles that came in. Remember, this is a 3 day chart, so we're talking about massive volume that came in February and March in anticipation of, and then right after the ETF. And what we're seeing here is now that potentially by the Ruber sell the news event is over, and we're months into the outcome of that, we're still basically way up on Bitcoin for not just the year, but really since backer lows of 2022. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about the potential for, okay, maybe it's a double top, right? Which is possible. Seen those before, an M top, if you will. What's important, though, I look at is this cluster right here of price action, because we had buyers step in when we broke 60K and really absorb that market sell-off to bring us back up to 70K, and we're currently resisting off that. Nothing's broken here, and therefore, even though it feels like it's a little bearish and we're seeing how this is affecting the altcoins, we're not really there yet. And the reason I say that is because until we're actually lower than this area where the market stepped in and said, no, we are going to support and we're going to be buyers every time we get down into the low 60K area, there's no reason to think that this is going to break down and we're going to lose all this gains and all the structure we've been able to achieve. Using our Bollinger Bands, we can basically see, and it's not really something we really need to use those with, but we can definitely tell that we're going sideways for, over a month now. And that sideways price action has basically consolidated and stabilized the Bollinger Bands, which got tight here, tight here, tight here, and were very wide when we were able to basically break through and up all the way here to that mid 70K. Now, we go to higher time frames, we can see the weekly says, wow, actually we're still pretty wide here, right? And the monthly says we're still tremendously wide here. Although finally we're having our lower Bollinger Band begin to start the curve up to actually begin to potentially tighten this. Now this can take months. I've been shocked and surprised. I remember back here in our 2017, 2018 bear market, if you will, I'm using quotes on that. We were tremendously wide here. And we never really tightened up. We got tighter, but we never really got like super tight on this very high time frame. And then we exploded, okay, in our 2021 bull markets. And we got tighter, but still, we're tremendously wide here in our Bollinger Bands. And what's interesting to me about this is that the market is still very strong because of the lack of sell rejection we're seeing. This is monthly. We've been 4 months. We're only halfway through June. So far this monthly candle isn't that great looking, but look how tight it is. We're a third of the way through June, and we have a range here of like $5,000, which is very, what's that, like 5%? In the price action Bitcoin, 9%. So for a monthly chart, that's still pretty tight. So nothing's changed here except the fact that we're still, arguably, we're just flagging, right? We're just flagging. I didn't want to do that. We're just flagging consolidation in this channel here. We know where our support is. We know where our resistance is. And what's even more important is we go back in history here, being able to maintain the 60K region is very important for Bitcoin because of the fact that this was our resistance in our last bull market. Now, using the wicks and using the body candles and everything there, early 61K was our resistance here from a monthly standpoint, even though we put wicks above 65, and up to 69 here. So look at, we are still holding above this previous area here of where that bull market in 2021 topped out. And until we lose this, until we get below 60K and start putting in, daily, weekly, and then potentially monthly candles below 60K, this is still a very bullish consolidation of our price action. Another thing to look at here is our volume bars, and we're decreasing our volume here while we're still maintaining our support in this area. Now, is buying slowed down? Sure. But is selling slowed down? Absolutely. And that's what we're looking at here. Go back to our 3-day chart here. Now, we have indicators and we have oscillators that basically can tell us where we are. Are we overextended? Are we oversold? And are we just kind of in the middle here? Actually, go back to the weekly for a second here. Big fan of the Ichimoku cloud. We can see we've crossed here into a bullish cloud pattern here in the future, and this can definitely act as major strong support. As you can see, we're going farther and farther and farther up here as we continue to maintain our price action, in this area. So again, here's our price action, and all of our supports are under it. Middle Bollinger, 20 period, 63K, holding support. Once we were able to break it here after resistance, held support, still holding support. So no red flags when our Bollinger Band is at 63K, middle Bollinger Band, and currently acting as support of the Bitcoin price action. EMA 12, EMA 26, two of my EMAs I like to use on multiple time frames here. Once again, we have not closed, except for this guy here, which was quickly reversed back up to. EMA 12 support continues to be support on the weekly chart. If this were to fail, I would think the 26 here would definitely be very strong support because it hasn't been touched yet, hasn't been tested since we had our bullish cross here back in our lows of October of 2023. So again, very strong support. Price action is above these EMAs here. I do like to pull up the EMA 55. This is something I remember from the 2017 bull market that kind of see here how price action just rode it, never broke it. And the first time it broke it here was clearly the support turning into resistance. Once we're able to get it back above it here, that was kind of that bull market of 2019. And once we were able to re-achieve support in April of 2020, we were off to the races here. So it's kind of a primer, using support, using it as resistance, this trap here. And now you can see that's still at a little under 50 grand. So the price action above that, and that's basically coincides with what we have seen in the bullish times of Bitcoin price action. Now we're looking here at our triple MA forecasts, 50, 200 and 100. Now, ideally, we want to see the red and the blue here switch places. We want to see the proper 50 over the 100 over the 200. And we're getting very close to actually seeing that happening. The 100 moving above the 200 here is actually a very nice bullish sign. And you can see our MA50 here at 48K and continuing to rise. So price action is still way above our MAs on our weekly chart. Similarly to what was happening in our bull market action here of 2021. So no red flags on that either. Looking at some oscillators and indicators here, chalk and money flow still very strong. However, we do want to note that we are in this area where we have constantly seen, you can go back farther, resistance, 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 resistance. Okay, so we're in the area where we do find that resistance, but we are also putting in, higher highs as the money flow continues. So no red flags there. Looking at our MACD, now we do see we have our bearish cross here, and we do see we are in our bearish histogram here. But look how shallow so far our bearish histogram is. And this was a huge rip, okay? So as long as we don't get too bearish on our histogram, right? As long as we don't get too bearish from separating here our indicators, okay, nothing really concerning about this here. We would like to see our blue line here kind of begin to pivot up. We'd like to see our red histograms turn back into blue and green histograms on the bullish side here. But this is still very close to hovering our zero line and not that much of a scary thing here. This is our on-balance volume. We can see we're consistently making higher lows. Okay, and one thing that is kind of interesting here, I will just point this out, is this looks a little, let me change that color. This looks a little head and shoulders-ish, right? Very clean, actually. I found that very interesting here. So we'll see if we have actually put in our actual shoulder here. But we can even go higher in Bitcoin price action and OBV support and still continue to set that right shoulder here. So this is something that, a pattern at least, that I will continue to keep an eye on. Weekly RSI, kind of seeing that lumpy head and shoulders. I really won't want to call it that, but we can definitely see that we are turning lower here. However, a 64 RSI on the weekly, nothing to sneeze at. That's still very strong. Anything under 50 begins to get a little tenuous here. And as you can see, when we get too overextended here, here, we do see those pullbacks. So here was our overextension. And now we're pulling back there. But again, no major red flags. Stochastic, right? Still climbing here. We did have a bear cross here, but nothing really scary about this. We're still climbing out of the zero line here. And lastly, this is something I really like to watch, is our squeeze momentum here. It's a histogram. It gives us examples of extremes, the towers that can be built, and the valleys that can be built as well. And one thing I do notice here, every time we switch from the bright green to the darker green, okay, there's really rarely a time where we switch back to the bright green. Okay, bright green, darker green. Bright green, darker green. 1 week here, we had a bright green, which was a fake out. And a couple times here, right? We've been in this green histogram for so long, and we keep putting in lower lows. Now, this is interesting because this is telling me that we are still losing that momentum steam, and we've been creating this histogram pretty much equally in time duration to what we actually saw here in 2021. So this is actually a little concerning, but still, we're still building that mountain. We are still on this mountaintop here. So as we are, midway into this week, and we're into these summer months here, yes, we're having trouble getting above 70, holding above 70. But the only part that's really would be scary from a technical standpoint is if we start putting in daily, weekly, and of course monthly closes, let's just call below 60K. And until that happens, until that actually plays out, I have to keep a bullish bias on this. We have stock markets at all-time highs. We have stuff like NVIDIA at all-time highs. And, if some of that immense stock market value, Apple over 200 today, wants to come back into crypto, we know what's going to happen and the potentials for that to happen when it does. So I wanted to just kind of share some of my thoughts about what I'm looking at in the charts in the market right now. Until this area breaks, until we break down below 60 again, which we definitely found that buyer support, the bulls have control, and the structure of this is just consolidation after a significant and major expansion. And because of that, this could potentially, be quantified as something of a wave four. Our Elliott waivers out there. From a pattern standpoint, from just the looks of it, it still has that feeling of a wave four consolidation. And we can see here that our 1-2 was actually pretty quick, right? So our 3 to 4 might actually take a little bit longer, and that's what we tend to see. 1 and 2 is quick, 3 and 4 is longer, 1 and 2 is long, 3 and 4 is quick. Okay, so wouldn't be surprised if we go another month or two in this consolidation flag period for that to play out. And then, using that Elliott wave sense and then using our fib to basically determine how far we can go, an extension of wave 3, let's just hypothetically say that the wave 4 low is already in, we can start assigning us targets. Maybe it's the 618 extension at 87K. Maybe it's 786 at 95K, or the 1-to-1 of wave 3, which puts us just over 100K. These are all possible targets if we're able to bust above the current high, let's see, about $74,000. And anything above that, when we get to blue sky breakout territory, is really possible. So I just want to share some of my thoughts here. The game is still Bitcoin, as long as Bitcoin's holding support. This is very encouraging. And I know that a lot of the altcoins have taken a beating. And the main reason for that, and let's be honest here, there's just too much coins out there. There's too much crap out there. And the dilution of all that meme coins and other derivatives and everything is just spreading too much of that money out. So a lot of these projects, a lot of these coins just have to go to zero, or at least get just taken to the woodshed until the real consolidation can begin. And if Bitcoin is able to break above 70 again with conviction, there's a very good chance we can be going much higher. Red flags, anything below 60 begins to become a red flag. And a sense that maybe this is really the end, and maybe we've put in just some sort of a extension, a 3-to-1 extension of what our initial pump was basically off of our lows. You can see to the penny, it basically was a 3x extension from that initial move there. So it's Big Jonas. Hope you guys are having a great night. Sharing my thoughts. Talk to you soon.